Welcome guys, Sacco here, and today I'm going to show you how to make your own custom Pokemon cards like the one on the screen now. Things you need are nail polish remover, cotton wipes, holo or reverse holo Pokemon card, adhesive spray, clear paper or white paper. You may need to go to a print shop in order to get the proper clear paper. What I'm going to show you today is how to make a Pokemon card from scratch, as well as modify the Pokemon and change its color. Once you have decided on the Pokemon, you need to do one of two things. Either draw the Pokemon and scan it, or find one from the internet. I've gone onto Google and typed in Lucario and found an image that I have liked with decent resolution. You want something around 500 by 500 pixels or higher. Once I'm happy with the selected image, create a new folder. I'm naming mine Lucario Pokemon card just because that's what I want. And save the image into the folder. Now that you have the image saved, you're going to open it up into Photoshop, and you are going to get the lasso tool and you're going to crop your way around the Pokemon. You want to separate the Pokemon from the background. In order to get the best effect, I highly recommend zooming in and slowly cropping around it. Once you have cropped the background out, you should end up with something relatively similar to what's on the screen now. If you don't want to change the color of the Pokemon and you're happy with the cutout, you can skip the next couple of steps. In order to change the color of the Pokemon, we are going to need to zoom into the Pokemon again and use the lasso tool. What we are planning on achieving by using the lasso tool is to individually separate each part of the Pokemon. Once you have lassoed around the part of the Pokemon, you are going to right click and layer via copy. You're then going to repeat this step for all the parts of the Pokemon to segregate it from the other colors. Be sure to name every layer so that way then when it comes to changing the color of the Pokemon, you know what each individual layer is. Once you have cut out every part of the Pokemon, you should end up with a fair few layers. What we're going to do next is go through the layers and find out what parts are the blue fur. By doing this, we will be able to then merge all of the layers together. In my case, I will need to control and click on all the layers that contain the blue fur that I want to change the color of. Once you have all the layers selected, right click and merge layers together. Now that all your layers are merged, rename it onto something that you'll be able to recognize. Once you've done that, click on Image on the top left corner, go into Adjustments, and click on Desaturize. Once the image is desaturized, you should notice that the Pokemon has now turned grey. The next step is to click on Image again, click on Adjustments, and look for Color Balance. Once you have Color Balance opened, you can then play around with the settings and change the color of your Pokemon. Please ensure when you're changing the color of a Pokemon that you're using the shadow, moderate, and highlight. That way then you'll get a really good adjustment of what kind of colors you can make. Now that I'm happy with the red that we've created, I'm going to click OK, and that way then it will save the changes. The other thing that you may have noticed as well is some parts of the Pokemon may have changed that you didn't want to change. For instance, possibly the eyes. If you did get the eyes changed, all you have to do is go back and layer the eyes in a separate layer. You will then need to bring the layer to the very top. Once you have done that, you may notice some gaps through your Pokemon's body from where you have lassoed around. What you want to do to get rid of those gaps is to create a new layer and rename it Gap Filler. You're then going to bring that layer to the very top and click on the paint icon. You're going to use the eyedrop tool, try to find a color that is relatively similar to the darkest point of that Pokemon, or the darkest point of the edge. You're then going to select that and draw over any of the gaps. You don't have to be 100% accurate with this, just try not to go along the outline of the Pokemon. When you are happy with everything, the next step is to grab the layer and lift it down to the very bottom so that it is behind the Pokemon. As you can see, it cleans up the image really well. Now that you've completed that part, go ahead and save it. For the next step, you will need to reopen your browser and click on the links below the YouTube video. This will take you to the website Defiant Art, where we can go onto Ashfield 101's page and get all the little resources that we need. Ashfield has done an incredibly good job on this, and it makes life so much easier when you have the work of him. The two things that we're going to need to find is the Sun and Moon pack that contains our card styles, so in this case, fighting, and we're also going to need to find the Sun and Moon resource pack, which is this one over here. Then go to your right hand side and click on download. Once downloaded, these files will need to be extracted. Put them all in one folder to make everything a little bit easier. I suggest using the folder that you originally named in the very beginning of the video. As you can see, it's got a lot of different options, such as Rainbow Full Arts, your regular cards, as well as your regular GXs. Once saved, you're going to go back into Photoshop, open up your files that you've just downloaded, and open up the correct card. So for us in this case, it's going to be the GX Stage 1 card. Before we start working on the cards, we will need to download the correct fonts, or fonts that are close enough to the original Pokemon fonts. This is as close as what I could find. You may be able to find something closer. Both are linked in the description. In order to download the fonts, you just click the download link, as well as the capture, and then you will need to install the fonts. It's very easy to install the fonts. Once you've got the download completed, double click into it and you should see the install icon on the top right hand side. With the fonts installed, the next step is to try and find a background that you like. In my case, I'm going to look for the background of a stadium. Might need to type in cartoon stadiums or possibly Pokemon stadiums, but you'll be able to find something if you search hard enough on Google. Once you've finally found a background, save the image and bring it into your new card screen. You'll then need to adjust the image to suit the Pokemon card. Once you have the background image in place, go back to your original Pokemon file, merge all the layers together, and you will then want to bring the layers across to the new Pokemon card. As you can see here, Lucario has been placed into the middle of the Pokemon card. Once you've done that, if you want to add more bits and pieces to the background, you can do that. I'm going to go online and see if I can find some rock images that I can add to the front of my picture. I was able to find one rock that I liked. All I did was lasso around it, copy it, and paste it again, and move them all together. I've then repositioned the rocks to the bottom to cover the part of the leg that was missing. I've then reordered the layers so that Lucario is just in front of just behind the rocks, and that way then you can't see where his legs are missing. You will then need to readjust the image to make it look good. Once you're happy with the image, we're going to input the name of the Pokemon. So click on the text box and look for the Gill Sans Condensed Bold font. Once selected, input the name of the Pokemon on the top of the Pokemon card. Once you have the sizing and the positioning correct, double click on the layer of the text, scroll down till you hit the outer glow. Once you have gone onto the outer glow, copy the settings that I have entered. This will give you the white outline that you see on many Pokemon cards. Once you've completed that step, open up in Photoshop the Sun and Moon resources page. Once you have the Sun and Moon resource page open, click on the rectangle shape and create a dark color shape around the background. This will help us see all the selections that we can make. The first thing we are going to select is the GX, so zoom in and make a lasso around the GX, right click and layer via copy. You can then drag and drop the new GX layer into the card file. The next step is to find the HP amount that you want, and then again lasso around the HP amount and layer via copy. You then need to drag the new layer onto the Pokemon card page. The next step is to create the moves. You can do this by selecting the text tool again. Ensure that you have the Gill Sans Condensed Bold text and input the move name. You will then need to add the white outline again, and we will follow the exact same steps as we did prior by adding the outer glow. We want the text to be around the middle of the page. Use a real GX card to help guide your positioning of the moves. Once you have positioned the move, you will need to go back into the resource page and collect the right move power. You can do this by lassoing around the number, right-clicking, and layer via copy. You will then get the layer and move it into the other Pokemon folder. Once positioned, select the amount of energy that you require to use that move, layer via copy again, and drag them over to the other file. As you can see here, I'm going to use a real Lucario GX, get all the positioning and sizing correct. Make sure that whenever you add an energy or text, you have to add the outer glow as well. Instead of adding the same instructions over and over, all I've done is skip ahead and added my own moves. Use the exact same steps as before, and you'll be able to do the same. For the little text that's under the moves, we have used the regular Gill sand with our white outer glow. We then need to add a GX move. Go back to the resource page and lasso around the GX box. I'm going to use the blue one for this instance. Then, layer via copy and drag over to the other page. Once you've moved the new layer onto the card page, you will then need to position it. Use a real Lucario GX to get the positioning around the correct area. You then need to add a GX move. For this, use the Gill Sans Ultra Bold Condensed text, and you will need to change the color of the text to white. Ensure that you resize and get the positioning correct. You want to position the GX moves in line with the start of the attacking moves above. You then want to go back into your resource page, lasso around the white GX, layer via copy, and drag it across. You then need to go back into the resource page, lasso around the move power that you want, ensure that you're using the white text, again, layer via copy, and drag it across. I'm going to use a 30 times damage, so I will need the 30 text as well as the white times symbol. In my situation, I will also need to use the little white text. To do this, all I'm going to do is copy the text above it, paste it down below, and then I'm just going to rewrite it so that I have it as the ability that I want. You will also need to change this text color to the light blue tone. Use a real GX card to get as close as possible. The next step is to add the weakness, resistance, and retreat cost. To do this, go back to the resource page, scroll to the bottom, and lasso around the energy and retreat costs. You then need to layer via copy again, drag it and drop it into the card page. With the weakness, you'll also have to add the ×2 symbol. Again, use a real Lucario GX card to get everything in position correctly. I've skipped forward here and repositioned everything until I was happy with it. I also went onto the web, found a real Lucario GX card, and copied the Riolu from the top to place it in the Stage 1 area. You may not have to do this with all Pokemon, but you will need to do this with any Stage 1 and Stage 2 cards. You will obviously need to use the correct previous evolved Pokemon. You will then need to add the evolved from text. To do this, use the regular Gill Sans font, as well as around the 14 point mark. Add in the text and continue. Ensure that the text that you've added in is placed on the very top layer. Finish off the card, you need to merge all the layers. To do this, go to a layer, right click and merge visible. If you're planning on printing the card, ensure that all the image sits within the boundaries of the grey area. In my case, some of it didn't. We had part of the background that was still sitting outside the lines. To fix this, all we did was get the rectangle select tool, select around our card from edge to edge, right click and layer via cut. You can then delete the original layer. Our final step is to readjust the image size. To do this, click on Image, scroll down until you see Image Size. Click on Image Size and you need to enter these parameters to print the card to the correct sizing. The correct sizing for a Pokemon card is 6.4 centimeters by 8.9 centimeters. We'll also need to boost the resolution to around the 250 to 300 mark. You also need to resample it as bicubic sharper. If you're planning on printing in holographic, you will also need to change the opacity. I changed mine to 3 different settings. I used one at around about 85%, 90%, as well as 95%, and then I just chose what looked best. I also recommend saving a Photoshop copy as well as a JPEG. Please note that you will have to print a couple of test images first because the sizing may change. I've found that when using a JPEG to print, the sizing has changed for me in the past, and to fix this, I've had to use the scale sizing percentage in the printer settings to adjust my sizing. I recommend printing on black and white in plain paper, just so you can get the sizing correct, then grab a ruler and measure it. That is the best way that you can get as close as possible to the correct size. Once you're completely happy with the sizing, you can then print in color. This is my sheet that I got printed from my local print shop. All I did was ask for the image to be printed on clear paper, and it cost me around about the $1.50 mark. Okay, so here's where we're going to need a real Pokemon card. It has to be a holographic Pokemon card. It can either be a normal holo or otherwise a reverse holo. We are going to use some nail polish remover. Make sure the nail polish remover that you have contains acetone. We're also going to use a makeup pad or a cotton kind of pad, and we're just going to add the nail polish remover to the cotton pad. We are then going to fold the cotton pad, and we're just going to scrub on the face of the card. Try to keep the card as still as possible, because if you get acetone on the back of the card, it will take away some of the Pokemon emblem at the back. You then need to carefully cut around the card, getting as close to the black border as you can, without actually cutting into the black border. For the last step of this video, we need to go outside into a well-ventilated area. Lay out your holographic card facing upwards on a piece of paper. Get your can of adhesive spray, shake it, and spray the holographic card. You need to cover the entire front side of the card for it to stick properly. Once sprayed, you need to grab the card you created and carefully place it onto the holographic card. You need to ensure that you stick your created card within the border of the holographic card, and you need to make it as straight as possible. Miscut cards can look terrible, so you need to get this as good as possible. Once it's stuck down, you need to apply firm pressure onto the card to ensure that it sticks down properly. And there you have it, your very own Pokemon card that you've made from scratch. As you can see, it shimmers in the light because of the holographic underneath, and it looks brilliant. With the video finished, I'd just like to say thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if I was able to help you. Please feel free to comment also. I'll be happy to help out in any way that I can. I'll also be doing a little giveaway where I'll actually be giving away this card that I've created. And to get into the draw to winning that, all you have to do is like, subscribe, and comment on the video. I appreciate you watching again. Thank you very much. This is Sacco. Thank you.